doesn't sound like Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Is this? It sounds like the girl from Ipanema. We're going to have a little.
That does have a little. That has a little of the girl from
Caribbean wind,
which is a nice song.
Beautiful song.
A beautiful song is what it is. I didn't name you any Earth, Wind, and Fire songs, did I, Garzy, to try to get?
No, but you can always.
I might do that.
You can do it on my way out, and I'll dance.
What's that supposed to mean? Here's my problem on song. You know, I think it wasn't their biggest hit.
Well,
September was a big hit for them. Yeah, September. Yeah, that was a big hit.
1st of September.
Shining Star was a big hit. That was from that.
Fantastic.
I think the title song from the album, That's the Way of the World, is a better song. I think it's a terrific song.
Beautiful song.
That was, I think, from a film. And then the double album, Gratitude, I still think it's their best album. Half of it was live.
And that's the one where they are deposited on the stage by a spaceship.
No.
They were some
they did a lot of that
astral
stuff.
Cats.
Can't Hide Love was a great song.
Great song.
They got a bunch. Yeah, we'll try. Maybe we'll try to get to a couple.
It's something in the.
We're talking about this because you're going tonight.
Yes,
to see Earth, Wind, and Fire.
And
what's left of them?
I will be the KFAN bumper to bumper correspondent.
Well, that's the philosophical question.
Yeah.
Have you gotten past? Because a lot of these groups, I mean, again, it was a long time ago. Their heyday, so they ain't can all be the originals. And some people say, well, then that just makes it not the same for me. Other people say, I don't care. I go in knowing I'm not a fool. I know who's here and who isn't, but I still want to celebrate what the
not
group represents.
Maurice White, and I totally get that.
Correct.
But there are a number of really good players. Philip Bailey.
Is Philip Bailey still
there?
He is there. Terrific vocalist.
They have three of the original members.
Okay.
Reginald. And,
okay.
Yeah, they have three of the original members. And so I'm cool with that. Now, would you go see Queen with Adam Lambert doing lead
I wouldn't
singer
see Queen with
Well,
Queen.
it's philosophically. I mean, just as we're talking conceptually, as we're talking about it.
No.
So
I will say I would probably go to see the Eagles, despite the fact that Glenn Fry isn't there.
Okay, so that's the thing.
I think I would.
They put together a hell of a band.
But you still got Henley.
And I'm not a huge fan, but I mean, they had all sorts of really cool people with the band. So yeah, I'm okay with that. And EWF is intact enough.
So you'll be grooving tonight.
You know I will. Yeah, I will. I remember in the documentary, the Questlove doc, where Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis were saying that there was this one iconic show in 1977 that everybody had to be at when they were here in the Twin Cities. That's at one of the heights, the first height of their popularity.
Yeah.
And Prince attended with his friends, including Jimmy and Terry, and realized that I can't do that. I'm going to turn around. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go back to the studio, and I'm going to become someone else because I cannot top this. And then he did. So yeah, I mean, I'm all in, man.
Yeah, no, it's the documentary is, especially if you have any recollection of the group, it's unsparing. I that's what I appreciate about it. It was very honest.
I was shocked.
There was some tough stuff.
Yeah, really tough.
And
then it made
it's still
me feel
true
like,
to the
oh
music.
My God.
Yeah, well, it's a reminder that the real story is always more
they've got a
complicated,
huge horn section tonight, and it's going to be something. So,
are you in the mosh pit? Are you on the floor?
I bought these tickets so long ago. I'm probably near the floor.
I'm guessing you got good. I'm guessing you're not in the nosebleeds.
Fine. Yeah, I mean,
oh, stop it.
They're okay. They'll be just
$1,000 each.
I'd have to look that up, but it's not beyond the realm of possibility. Well, when you dance at your wedding,
you only live once, and this is
that's it. And this is my one time.
I understand all of that. That's very, very true. All right, I want to get to something that's not on your list. We talked a lot with your guy Andy. But it's you can handle it with Andy about your guy Judge. Is it Schultz?
Yes.
His ruling, which is still reverberating, one could say, around the United States of America. And I'm going to get to the Walls request in a minute. Here's what I want to ask you about. Here's your headline. The rise of the dude bro candidate. That's the term being used here, the dude bro. With campaigns that blend manliness with populist outrage, candidates across the political spectrum hope influence-style swagger will win over voters. And they talk about, for example, your guy, Graham Plattner, as an example of what we're talking about here. We're talking about, they say, in the outsized way, Trump. They're talking about Fetterman. They're talking about they named J.D. Vance 2.0 and Bernie Sanders. That there's this sort of, in some cases, populist fury, frat boy antics, and straight talk authenticity. So you want to take it to a local race, Spencer Pratt, former reality TV show, a man who literally emerged from the Los Angeles fires to launch a nominally Republican campaign for mayor and got awfully close to qualifying for a runoff in that deep blue city. He ran on what's described here as a Pacific Palisades strain of class outrage and hatred for the incumbent, a black Democrat he nonetheless painted as out of touch and elite, et cetera, et cetera. In Texas, there's a dude bro named Brandon Herrera, a self-proclaimed Second Amendment activist and social media personality. On his YouTube channel, he calls himself AK Guy. He hand makes his own guns. He's the presumptive Republican nominee for Texas's 23rd district in Congress. His past includes referring to a German gun as the original ghetto blaster and mocking Barron Trump. Trump has endorsed his candidacy nonetheless. Then they mention Graham Plattner. He's out of Maine, right?
Yes, that is correct.
He's trying
oyster farmer. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And there it goes on from there. One other statement to give you the background. As such, for better or worse, they're all millennials. And as such, they seem particularly suited to the social disruptions and unpredictability of the moment, an environment in which generationally, many men seem to feel lost. The old paradigms of what it takes to get by and get ahead have crumbled beneath them. Unlike Bill Clinton, who plotted out his political future from the crib, these guys seem to have entered politics almost on an impulse, as a freewheeling, why not? Or a more pointed, why not me? Grievance candidates to the core. They are running on anger, their own and that of their potential constituents. Whatever whiff of shame accompanied earlier similar charge campaigns like Matt Gaetz seems to have dissipated since 2024.
That's the point.
A part proletariat, part edgelord, the Dude Bro candidate is a hybrid who hopes to transcend party lines, disdains normies, the establishment, politicians, and elites. He may not hold the same views as Mamdani or Piker, but he subscribes to the same school of social media provocation. I think this is a pretty smart piece, but I'm trying to figure out, what do we do with it? How do we understand it? Does this say to us we're never going back? What is, and is it useful? Does this kind of candidate, because the problem you have, as soon as you rip this kind of candidate or look down on this kind of candidate, what's the comeback? Oh, okay, more elitism. That's why this kind of candidate exists in the first place. So
he speaks for all of us.
Exactly. So what do we do with this? And what does it mean about the political future when it comes to people who break through? The Dude Bro.
I do think it's an interesting concept, the Wall Street Journal, I believe.
Yes.
And it reminds me of how we in the media try to label different groups and different trends in every election, like soccer moms. Remember those?
I do.
The Blue Dog Democrats. Remember that? Who is going to influence the election? So these are, I think, pretty authentic, rough around the edges candidates who are saying exactly what they believe, and they are not tempering it in any way. This is who I am, take it or leave it. What I've found with candidates like Graham Plattner is there's many downsides. It's a high-risk, high-wire candidacy, and there are a lot of downsides to the party if he loses. And he might, but he also might win. So are we now at a point, because of Donald Trump, if you love him, if you don't love him, he has come out there and he's a little more slippery than this because he's not saying exactly who he is because he has many, many different positions. Right. But the candidates that you just named, like Plattner in particular, He says, this is who I am. I used to be that guy. I'm not anymore. They're very frank about it. In his case, he says he suffered from PTSD and the military stuff, and he has apologized for not only past social media, but past behavior towards women. So the question now becomes, if a candidate puts himself or herself out there, warts and all, do we accept something, even if ethically or morally we don't like what he did or what he does or how he is? That's going to be the big test. And so it doesn't matter what kind of person you are. It only matters that you are enunciating my grievance, mine, because you speak to me because I'm pissed off. And so you're the guy I'm going to vote for. I'll be really interested to see how many of these people end up where they are. Being able to identify a movement like this, because it is everywhere, is very interesting. And we got here suddenly with Donald Trump, I believe.
So to me, the biggest question out of all this, and that's very well laid out, is are we actually helped by gravitating towards candidates who seem to articulate our feelings? What are feelings? The best contrast I can give you is we just had Andy Luger, and again, Monday, who you obviously know well. And Luger, I think, and again, he's not the last word, and you can agree with him on some stuff, disagree, whatever. Luger tries not to be about feelings, but to be about the work. The notion that there's a technocrat part of that. Now, again, you got to reach people. I get that. That's part of politics and being successful. But he's about the work. And, he mentioned with us that he had texted you from the convention. He had texted me the same thing, basically saying, this was the Hennepin County convention, the
DFL convention.
And he said, I'm never going to another one. And what he doesn't like is not that there can't be differences of opinion within the party, but that we didn't talk about the work. In this case, the work was obviously like Hennepin County. Which job was it?
The Hennepin County attorney and the sheriff.
And the sheriff. And he's saying, can't we talk about not
how
just
are
feelings,
you going to lower crime, for
exactly.
example?
What are the methods? What works? What doesn't? Etc. That's not about feelings. And that, to me, is the interesting, you could say, schism between what would I think be classified as more traditional approach in politics that's considered, I guess, by some as elitist, but I don't think has to be elitist if you're trying to get to how can we make this better? What are the series of things we need to debate and discuss? Strategy, approach, etc. That's not feelings, and yet it almost makes it seem like the Luger approach is that of a dinosaur.
And it absolutely is not, by the way.
It shouldn't be.
And when you have the Hennepin County DFL in the Minneapolis DFL, where they're turning their backs on the sheriff,
exactly,
while she's speaking, I mean that's a little crazy. Back to Graham Plattner, and I'll connect it in a moment. But Graham Plattner, who is this oyster farmer, rough around the edges, and has a really checkered past that many people would not support, he is the same progressively and politically as Mamdani, who was in New York City, the mayor, who is very smooth, very polished, and is trying to get things done. Now, what are we going to do if we elect people like this? And Andy Luger and I have talked about this at some length, at great length, about what do you do to put your policies in place? Is it just going to be us throwing feces against the wall against each other? Is that what we're going to do? Or are we going to come up with a plan? So Donald Trump is gone in 2 years, and we're going to have a whole nother campaign for president and U.S. Senate. And I see that maybe he'll be gone in a couple of years. And we can hope that he will be here another 4.
At least.
But then what do? Are we going to focus this new manliness candidate, and I'm going to kick your ass candidate, on retribution against, if you're a Democrat, against the Republicans? Are you going to do that? Or are you going to focus on housing, on education, on the things that actually mean something to real people in real situations. So are you going to be the candidate who I think would be a lot more successful if you say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a $25 minimum wage. I'm going to give young families child care, universal child care, things like that the Democrats could do in the future. Instead, many of them are going to be on a retribution campaign, and I get it. I get why people are ticked off. I totally get it. But what is forgivable? What is redeemable?
That's it.
What is passable in the future? Are you just going to walk away from all that? You got to come up with some Project 2029 if you're the Democrats, if you want to win. So Andy Lugar is somebody who is deeply thinking about this stuff right now for 2 years from now.
Yeah, a great deal, 100% right. So let's we'll move away from that a little bit and then get to, we talked a lot with Lugar because that was the day that Schultz threw out the subpoenas issued against a number of Democratic leaders, including the governor, in very strong, highly unusual, stern terms by the judge. And for the record, again, as an example, Lugar supported the decision, thought it was well reasoned, and Chris Mattel, who was listening to the program, and he and Andy disagree on a lot of stuff, believe it or not, even though they're still able to talk to one another, a radical thought of that.
Yep.
Agreed. Also said that there's not any question that the judge is right, that this is just being used in this case as flat out retribution. In fact, one of the things Mattel has said is, if you're a Republican, you should, and historically that means big on states' rights as opposed to the feds always swooping in.
Small government.
You should be celebrating that's what this protects, is that the federal government can't come after state officials. But let's get to, so the governor has filed what we in the business called an FOIA request related to this story. What's this about?
Well, Governor Walz, after Judge Schultz threw out the subpoenas, and chastised the U.S. attorney here in Minnesota, appointed by President Trump, calling those subpoenas politically motivated, unconstitutional, without merit. And it's important that we know that because he said, why did you even bring this to a grand jury? You don't have any evidence, suggesting very strongly that this was done because President Trump wanted it to be done. So Governor Walz, after this was thrown out, the subpoenas were thrown out, files this FOIA request, the request for information about what he calls a campaign of retribution against Minnesota. And we don't know what's real and what's not, but we do know the facts that President Trump has called for charges against the Democratic leaders here. He has sent troops here, the ICE agents, to occupy the city of Minneapolis. He's withheld funding. He has started investigations. He's blamed the Somalis for all of the fraud. And so it does seem as if there is some sort of pattern of retribution. Then the president said, I am your retribution. So he wants information, Governor Walz does, through the Department of Justice, through the Agriculture Department, through the Department of Homeland Security, all of these places, to prove that that's exactly what happened, which would be highly illegal. I don't know. I mean, we're 2 years away. It takes, I have filed FOIA requests as a reporter, and it takes years to get these, and I can't believe for a second that Governor Walz will get it. So in that sense, it's performative, but somebody's got to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. And if the Democrats control one of the houses after this election this year, will there be investigations to actually find this stuff out? Maybe. But that is the cause and effect of Judge Schultz throwing out the subpoenas and now the governor filing this request. It's very interesting, very fascinating.
Are you talking about the judge who was appointed by George W. Bush?
Yeah, the judge is a prominent conservative, very conservative federal judge, Judge Schultz. Yes, right? Appointed by Bush, George W. Bush, is someone who actually somebody who was a law clerk for Antonin Scalia, who actually came here to swear him in as a judge. Taught at Notre Dame, University of Notre Dame, and who was a student, Dan? Somebody that you might know, Amy Coney Barrett. Cool. So
take that for what it's worth.
It
hasn't mattered.
It's interesting that as I'm hearing I'm getting texts and other things that Governor Walz, the irony of Governor Walz applying for FOIA when many people say he has not been transparent for the last 3 years. So great irony. Thank you for that text.
Let's say tonight you're dismissed now, and you can look forward to the big concert tonight. And will you? It doesn't sound like there's going to be any ganja for you tonight. There might be alcohol tonight.
Well, I'm
not saying you're going to get stinking drunk.
That's a game day. That's a game day decision.
I see.
We'll get there.
It's game day.
You run.
And then, and then I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. So leaving tomorrow morning. So
for New York.
New York City, baby.
Nice. Well, have a wonderful time. Have a wonderful time tonight. Don't make a fool of yourself, though, this evening.
No.
Okay. Just want to be sure.
Make a fool of yourself.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
that's what it's for.
It is.
That's what it's for.
Well, you're retired now, so
everybody's got a camera. Everybody's got a camera.
But remember,
it'll be fine.
Yeah, you're connected with someone who has a big shot job that does not need, the idea that you're in the newspaper because you have to be taken out on a stretcher.
That's what I told my
kids.
I used to tell my kids, remember, don't do anything when you go out because you remember what's the headline in the paper tomorrow. It's not going to be about you.
No, it's not.
It's going to be about me.
That's it, exactly. 100%. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Pat Kessler, a bit early today. We're going to get caught up. We've got another outstanding guest, World Cup related. We'll get to a couple of other items as well when we continue on this Wednesday here in the Fan.
This is Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barrera.
Being about the work just used to be a normal part of growing up and being an adult. Now it is acceptable for grown men to act like children and ascend to the highest levels of government. Pretty well said, I must say. There is a follow-up, Guardsy, to our discussion Monday with Luger, and I guess you could say it's even connected to now. We're in a mode right now. I don't want to say period, but we're in a mode where it becomes difficult to know whether there can be any attempt to reason with people. The best example I can give you is as we're talking to Luger on Monday, somebody texts and says, basically, what's wrong with this picture? Blogger guy, and I can't remember the name of the online guy who came in with video and claimed to find all sorts of feeding our future fraud.
Yep.
His name escapes me. It'll come to me. Somebody will text us with it. That in a matter of days, he came in and did what Andy Luger over years couldn't do. And I didn't, at the time, respond to it. I might be making a mistake responding to it now.
Nick Shirley,
thank you. But in all honesty, if you invent that lie and perpetuate it, I don't know what we have to discuss. I really don't, because the record speaks for itself. The reason that texter thinks that to be true is why? Because on certain outlets or even online, we've had those confrontational videos where no kids are being taught, no kids are being fed, whatever the case may be. Correct? And in an instant, if you want to believe that, nothing prevents you from believing it. And if it is perpetuated online and looked at over and over again, people can believe it, or they choose to believe it. So I can point to legal cases, drawn, tried, convictions, etc., having to do with the U.S. Attorney's Office. Reams and reams of newspaper stories attempting to chronicle those cases, how those cases were adjudicated, where they ended up, that prove the lie, the fallacy of what that texter went with. But in all honesty, and I would again say, that should be irrespective. In other words, you can have an opinion that you don't like any Democrats in the U.S. Attorney's Office, or ones who've had that in their background, or politically you disagree with Andy Lugar. I can respect that. But I can't have a conversation if you are going to make up something as ludicrous and as demonstrably false as they did a better job. What's his name again, Shirley? Nick Shirley, in a few days, cleaning things up in Minneapolis, than the individual who was leading several other attorneys over a period of years to develop these cases and try them in a court of law, not in the court of public opinion, via video. That's when I say to myself, what's the point? You've decided you want to believe it because you want to dismiss the voice you're hearing on the radio. And again, the irony is, if you are a righty, if you are a shark, and you believe in law and order, you believe those are important concepts that are too often forgotten by the Jets and people who represent the Jets. You should actually be bothered at all of the star power removed over a period of time from the U.S. Attorney's Office. How many times did we talk about it before we even had Lugar on the air, before we even had developed much of a relationship with him on this show? This guy got back here a second time, and what did he say? There's a few things crime-wise that are out of control. Gangs. Carjackings. Remember that period we went through where carjackings were a huge thing? And he decided, all right, I'm going to bring the full weight of the federal government. There's things I can do that people perhaps at the county level can't do. This can't stand this way. He had people who worked with him, developing experience and expertise in those areas. We talked about the use of the RICO Act with gangs, etc. So if you're a law and order guy, there's a bunch of other Jets you should want to go after. But the idea that, well, Lugar couldn't get any of this stuff done. In fact, if now some of the stuff that they started to do isn't continuing when it comes to gangs, well, the reason is they're no longer in that position. You should actually be offended by that if you are a believer in law and order. But if you're just about the labels, other side, bad guy, then you don't care. I guess it doesn't make a bit of difference. You'll ignore that aspect of the record, which again is provable. Doesn't mean every decision was perfect. Doesn't mean there weren't some decisions that you can't be critical of in terms of who you go after and who you don't, etc. But I'm scratching my head. But then I say, why should I even bother to scratch my head? If it's all so performative that I saw the videos. Look at that Nick Shirley guy. He walked in here, and 5 days later, everybody's in prison, which is factually false compared to all the work that had been done previously that might not have gotten done at all. So I throw that out now just because it's been gnawing at me since Monday. And originally, like I said, I just let it go. But I'm hoping that that's the minority of the people listening to us. I really do. Because, again, this isn't about the Sharks and Jets thing. If you think it rationally in this particular case, it has nothing to do with that. It's what a body of work that is in writing, that has been reported on, that is in the court system, lays out. Is it possible that via a video, some wrongdoing can be uncovered? Absolutely. But the idea that was offered there where, why do you even have this guy on? It took him years and he couldn't get anything done. Nick Shirley came in 5 minutes, took care of everything. If that's where your mind is at, no matter how much of a Shark or Jet you are, we're doomed. So I'll just hope that there are those folks out there who do the old, and we've talked about this among the lefties as well, the idea of we can't even talk about our own warts because that gives sustenance to the enemy, that whole bit. It's tiresome. It's childish. And it gets us absolutely nowhere. But that's sort of what, this thing sounds like a little bit. If you're Law and Order, they were doing in that office a lot of tough Law and Order things that, frankly, some Democrats, probably some progressives didn't like. They were not moved to do it. He did all that on his own because he felt he told us on Monday, everybody deserves to be in a situation where they feel a little bit safer. And what I walked into the second time was there was some trouble now, did you solve all of it? No, absolutely not. He's not even in a position of authority any longer. I mean, somebody has dismissed the other day when I brought up Mattel, same thing. Well, he's not a Republican, he's a centrist. To which I would say, is that so bad? First of all.
Right.
And secondly, if you think he's a card-carrying DFLer, he's the attorney, by the way. He's the attorney for Alpha News. And by the way, a strong advocate who's gotten into some brawls with some reporters on this stuff. So I get the game. The game is, if Mattel says what I want to hear, then I'm going to support him. If he doesn't, then, he's just a mod. He's a Democrat in Republican clothing, sheep's clothing. It's all very obvious exactly what the game is that he is playing. And as he has said, and we probably should have him on again soon, that if you are a classic conservative, I don't know how many of those still exist at this point, you should be delighted with the judge's ruling in this case. Even if you don't like that it seems to play well in Democratic precincts. Let's get caught up. We're a little behind, right, because we went long with Kessler. And we also have a very special guest to talk World Cup at the top of the 5 o'clock hour. Don't go away.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barrero on The Fan.
Our iHeartRadio Music Festival, presented by Capital One,
is coming back to Las Vegas.
Going to join us at the top of the 5 o'clock hour to talk World Cup. Our old friend, the outstanding author and columnist for Bloomberg, does a lot of sports stuff for them online. We'll talk some World Cup with him, an interesting piece he just wrote. Rube Paul writes, the Nick Shirley people are conspiracy rubes. They don't really want facts, they want excuses. People generally didn't pay attention in high school, they're less successful because of it, and they look in a conspiracy instead of looking in the mirror. I don't want to turn that into they're dumb, because then that starts the elitist talk and it ends up working against you anyway. But I'm going to say it becomes difficult to reason, because I don't think it's necessarily stupidity. I think it's blindness that you say it's us and them, and the rules we play by are simply that. I'm only going to acknowledge what I think works for my side, and that's all. I do not have the capacity or the desire, more importantly, to think beyond that particular. Now it's almost a written rule. I think that what the guy's trying to say is, without Nick, is it Shirley?
Yes.
Probably still wouldn't have heard about all this fraud. He brought it to a head across the nation. Again, all I can say to that is, if people who follow Nick Shirley were not aware of the scope of this until he came to town, that's on them. The story, even in lefty Minneapolis, St. Paul, has been covered extensively. It was the elephant in the room that could not possibly be ignored. So if you weren't paying attention to it, maybe because you were flyover country, or we are in flyover country and you didn't, but nothing brings gravitas to the story like court cases, not just videos, court cases in front of a judge, in front of a jury, with a defense attorney and a prosecutor. And that's what was systematically happening over a period of time. And guess what? Because we believe in this in this country, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. So it couldn't just be about suggestion and how it looked. And I tried to open this door and they didn't seem like they were even open, which may or may not be indicative of fraud. But how you pin it down and prove it, we think in the United States of America, we believe in this concept when it's convenient to us, is innocent until proven guilty. You got to nail these individuals in a court of law, and that's what's been done over and over again in a period of time. Now, regarding the way the state has handled it, if you, again, listen to this show more than occasionally, and you're honest with yourself, you will have to admit, even if it bugs you, that we have been merciless with this governor, with this administration, with the entire bureaucratic apparatus in this state, as we learn more and more about the warning signs that were out there. And so, obviously, there's not a lot of people who listen to this show nationally. This is a local show, regional show. We're on a regional network, I guess you could say. But in terms of Nick open, yeah, because maybe you're paying attention to Nick more. But that doesn't mean Nick gets credit for basically coming in after the fact and piggybacking on a lot of other really good work that had already been done that opened the door to. Why do you think it was here in the first place? The debate class would be interesting now that facts don't exist. No one is claiming they're on prison after the videos are posted. Hold on. The claim is the U.S. attorney was put on notice that this massive fraud was happening. But again, you're leaving out the most important piece. The U.S. attorney's office, under the last two leaders, Lugar and Joe Thompson, didn't have to be put on notice. They, with help from sources, warning signs, put these cases together. And got convictions long before the videos were posted. What world are we living in that can't be understood? Let's do this. Let's stay on schedule. Let's talk World Cup. Interesting. I don't know if you want to call it a controversy. There's been a lot of discussion about, wait a minute, how is this player playing for this team? Is there some, gerrymandering going on? Is this really, is this a player who should actually be playing for the United States of America and elsewhere? There's always that question as it comes to the Olympics and the World Cup as well. Our next guest has written extensively recently about that very subject. And if you have questions, World Cup questions, or other things for him, Adam Minter, Bloomberg.com, is going to join us after a very brief pause here in the Fan.
You're listening.